St. Louis, it is game 82 out of 82. This season is officially ending tonight. No playoffs. Um, but you know what? Let's enjoy this because this is the last time we get to watch this team take the ice before changes happen. So let's get into it. Coming up here on Locked on Blues' pregame show.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today, it is the final game of the St. Louis Blues' 2023-2024 season. Can you believe it that it is done? I have a lot of feelings about the season, but I told myself one thing, and that is that I am going to enjoy tonight's game. Drew Bannister's status. What will happen after this game? Do we think that he stays, he goes? And will Doug cook? A huge discussion that you and I will be having throughout the entire offseason is going to be what Dougie A is going to do this offseason. Is he going to make those moves? Is he going to acquire some players in free agency? My cat's behind me because she's getting ready to watch the Blues, but it's going to be a really fun episode today because I love doing my pregame shows. I do want to let you know, though, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So, listen, Blues fans, you should be excited about today's game. Why is that? Why are you excited? Well, I'll give you a couple of reasons why. We still get to watch the St. Louis Blues play hockey. And I know it sounds a little silly. Maybe I'm just oddly positive because I love hockey and I hate the fact that it's about to end, for us at least. But it's a way for the Blues to end their season on a high note, hopefully. But again, I have the lineup like always. My last time I get to do this for the season. I'm a little surprised, if I'm going to be completely frank with you, that the Blues didn't recall certain players from the T-Birds, just because I believe this would be a really good game to get them experience. But let's talk about this because, again, just like game 1 of the season, game 82, it's still a game. It still means something. I mean, not mean getting into the playoffs, but it is still a meaningful NHL game. At least I'm telling myself that. So our first line, and this, oh man, I'm getting upset. I shouldn't be getting upset, but I am getting upset. Because I just know that this team had such potential to go to the playoffs, and it just upsets me because I'm looking at, our projected lineup for tonight, and it just bums me out knowing that we're not going to see this, so it's fine. So our first line, we have Robert Thomas, and then on the left of him is Zach Bolduc, and then Braden Shen as the right winger. Our second line, we have Pavel Buchnevich, and then on his left, it's Brandon Saad and Jordan Kyrou. Then on our third line, it is Kevin Hayes centering. Left of him is Alexei Turchenko, and then on the right is Kasperi Kapanen. And then on our fourth line, it is Zach Dean. And then you have Nathan Walker and Sammy Blais on the right. For defense, we have Scott Perunovich and Colton Parayko, Nick Leddy and Matthew Kessel, Marcus Scandella and Tyler Tucker, and in net, you have Jordan Binnington. So I like this. I had a feeling that Binner was going to be playing today, and this is what Drew Bannister said. We want to make sure we feel good about ourselves, but we have an opportunity to take a little away from them too. I'm sure they're going to be coming hard. They want to make sure that they win the Western Conference. For us tonight, it's trying to railroad that and come out here with 2 points. An interesting perspective from Drew Bannister about tonight's game. I understand that you have to motivate yourself somehow, some way. What frustrates me is that if the St. Louis Blues were in the East, they would be in the playoffs. And I think that the playoff structure, right? I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm not, because at the end of the day, they're in two different conferences. The Blues are in the West. Obviously, East is his whole entity. But it is a little frustrating when you know that the Blues are going to finish as the 16th team. Um, and that's like the worst place to be, because you know if the Blues finish maybe a little bit worse than they did now, they would maybe get a higher draft pick. But finishing at 16th, it just really does not set them up for much success when it comes to the draft. It doesn't do much because you're not getting playoff experience. I always feel like that's the worst place to end a season. And I mean, at this point, even without the 2 points, it's not like any other team is going to be able to get ahead of them in that sense. So might as well let's go get those 2 points and just end the season on a high note. Get it note. But a lot of these players will be back. And that's the other thing to remember, is that this team isn't going to get rid of like 5 players, maybe like a couple, I believe, but not a whole bunch. Just my feeling about this offseason. So you might as well make these guys feel good, motivate them for next season. And I'm not saying that the outcome of tonight's game doesn't matter for the Blues. Personally, I think that, these players just want to, be successful, because at the end of the day, I don't know an athlete's mentality, right? Especially professional athletes' mentality. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what that entails, but I do know one thing, and that is sometimes how you finish can help you with how you're beginning again, or something philosophical like that. But I like that Bannister is finding a reason to motivate them. Hey, you don't want the Dallas Stars to, clinch the first, I believe, in the Western Conference. So, because yeah, they already got the Central. The crazy thing is that I did say the Stars were going to win the Stanley Cup, and I understand, hey, I get it, but they're a really good team, so I don't know how tonight's game's going to go. But I do want to tell you a couple things. One, I know there's no Jake Neighbors. I'm sure he's going to be fine by the time the season begins again, so do not panic. I know that sometimes I panic when I don't see players. Same with Jay Folk. I'm sure everybody will be okay. Binnington being in tonight's game is a huge thing, because to put Joel Hofer in tonight's game would be a mistake, because the Dallas Stars are that amazing, that talented of a team. And you don't want these players mentally to have a really bad final game. And all off season, that's how it ended, right? Is it the easiest matchup? No. Is it the hardest matchup? Yeah. But this is the same team that has been so inconsistent all season, right? They lose to the Sharks, but yet they can hold their own against some of these other good teams, like the Avalanche. And I'm like, okay, what are the St. Louis Blues? And they're a team that is just so inconsistent. But when they play good hockey, they play good hockey. And I think that, a Robert Thomas, fantastic season by Robert Thomas. Binnington, fantastic season. So individually, a lot of these players have played really good hockey, but it's hard to pinpoint specific players that I felt like didn't. And again, I'm not trying to be negative, and I'm not trying to come out certain players, because that's not my job here, right? I don't want to pick apart these players, but this is a team sport, and while individually some of these players have had really good season, so far, it also comes down to playing as a team, and clearly, a lot needs to change. But this game tonight, it is important to go out on a high note. It's important, and I'm glad that, Bannister was able to find a reason, because I was thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, well, you have the whole, self-fulfillment of, making sure you end on the high note, but knowing that you could derail the Dallas Stars from clinching the Western Conference, that's good coaching, because I think that would motivate him a little bit more. So proud of proud of Bannister for finding that. I am going to talk about Doug Armstrong later today. That's why I said Doug, because Doug is on my mind. But it's a busy episode, because I have some other news that we're going to talk about on today's episode. But I want to talk to you, if I can can find it. About my friends over at Game Time. Okay, so Game Time is probably my favorite place to buy tickets for all types of events. And here's the thing about Game Time. You buy your tickets last minute at the lowest price guaranteed. Game Time has flash deals, zone deals, and so much more. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll go to the parking lot and I'll open my Game Time app because it's that easy. I'll find tickets because I have it on a setting where you can even see the fees included. So I know exactly what I'm getting. And then I'll buy like a $15 ticket and that's it. Like it's that simple. So Game Time always has last minute deals, flash deals, zone deals, all in pricing. Oh, get this, seat views. That is right. On the app, it shows you exactly the view that you will see from where your seat is. So it makes it so easy to really plan everything out. And for me personally, I'm short, I'm only 5'2". So sometimes I need to sit somewhere where I'm able to see a little bit higher up. And that's where that seat view comes in so handy. Okay. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code Locked On LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So before I talk about Drew Bannister's status, I just want to let you know before, I'm trying to make this get out before the game begins. But I want to let you know about the Winter Classic because some information got released today about the date and the time for the Discover NHL Winter Classic between the St. Louis Blues and the Chicago Blackhawks at Wrigley Field has been set. The game will be played on Tuesday, December 31st at 4 p.m. Central and will be televised on TNT and Sportsnet and TVA Sports in Canada. This will be the 16th NHL Winter Classic and the 42nd NHL regular season outdoor game. The St. Louis Blues are 2-0 in outdoor games after collecting wins in the 2017 Winter Classic against the Blackhawks at Busch Stadium and in the 2022 Winter Classic against the Minnesota Wild at Target Field. The Blues and the Blackhawks have met 331 times in the regular season and 12 times in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Oh my gosh, if I can read. Blues season ticket holders on a multi-year deal for the 2024-2025 season will receive priority access to purchase tickets for the Winter Classic. So a bunch of information about that. And fans can also enter a chance to win tickets online. So at Blue Natic. So lots of ways to get your tickets. I'm going to try to be there. Okay. I am going to the draft this year. And I said that the draft is in late June in Vegas. So I'll be there for the Blues, obviously. But I always wanted to go to a Winter Classic. And it just kind of happened to be my first year of hosting Locked On Blues. It gets announced that the Blues will be in the Winter Classic next year. And yeah, I hate that it's not in St. Louis. I don't understand why it's not in St. Louis. I think that we would be a really fun city to have it in. Obviously, I don't live in St. Louis now, but I love St. Louis and my ties to St. Louis are, I explained it, whatever. But that might be my trip to the Winter Classic. Because I think I'm going to go seriously to a back-to-back series in St. Louis this coming season. But the Winter Classic, that's exciting. So if you're planning on going to the Winter Classic, let me know. I think that it's going to be a fun game. Obviously, I know why it's going to be Chicago. It's because of Connor Bedard. No, why do they choose the Blues? I don't know. Why is it on the 31st? I don't know. I think that somebody said something about college football, but personally, I like that it's on January 1st and Tuesday the 31st just seems a little bland. But I might make a little trip out of it. Wrigley Field. It's cool, but I wish it was in St. Louis, but it is what it is. Okay, so Bannister's status. So after tonight's game, do I think Coach Drew Bannister will be the coach of the Blues? And that's a good question because I have been debating with myself back and forth about this. I think he's done all right? Not the best, not the worst. Better than Mike Yo, but anyone can be. That was mean. But I think that they're going to try to maybe look at other candidates. It's unfortunate. I know that the Buffalo Sabres fired their head coach. And a lot of people are saying, Chief is one of the top prospects to be coach of the Sabres. I hate that he's not our coach. I do. I think Craig Berube enabled everything about the St. Louis Blues in a positive way. I think that he was the best coach for this team, hands down, and I will still say that. Whenever a coach is fired, it reflects on the higher ups, right? And I believe that Doug Armstrong's mistakes of not doing anything this past offseason is the reason why Chief got fired. And it sucks, right? I know that I can't say, oh, well, he's the coach that got us our Stanley Cup. So, you can never get rid of him. I'm not saying it like that, but I am saying clearly he knows what he's doing to help the team. Because remember, when he first came here, it was our cup season and we sucked. We were the last team in the Western Conference at the end of January, and he was able to get us to win a Stanley Cup. So I don't know what is going to happen. With Doug Armstrong, you really don't know. I think that Bannister, it could be 50-50. My personal opinion, I would say try to find a more experienced head coach. But with how Doug is, I could also see the Blues keeping Bannister and just kind of chugging along how they did this past season. Do I agree with what's going on with this team? No. I really blame Doug Armstrong for a lot of these things. And let me know your thoughts. I want to know what you think because this has been one of the most frustrating seasons being a fan of this team, knowing that they could have been a much better team if they just made some more moves this offseason. Even at the trade deadline, try to get this higher up draft picks, just something because this team needs it. But again, the prospects have me excited, so I'm not like panicking, just frustrated. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you about something new today. Okay. And that is Monopoly Go. Okay. So this is what I like about Monopoly Go. Listen, I am a competitive person. Okay. Like I am. Okay. It may not seem like it, but I am. And I have a competitive side. We all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. I've been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you can play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on iconic properties just like the classic Monopoly. But now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. To get in the game and join your friends, download the Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Well, Doug Cook. One of the questions I am always asking myself, will Doug Armstrong do something? He has no option but to do something this offseason. He has been safe. Simple as that, safe. Not making risky moves, not putting this team in a good direction. He needs to do something this offseason. You have different players on the team that you can move around. Listen, I am not saying get rid of everybody, but and I hate this because he is a good defenseman. Colton Parayko was a guy rumored to potentially being traded multiple times and nothing happened. You could get value out of Parayko. You really could. Some of these other players, do I think they're going to get value out of? Maybe. I mean, maybe Pavel Buchnevich, maybe. It's also a Bushi's birthday today, so happy birthday, Bushi. But they have players that can still hold value, which is so important, especially with how they are right now. So Doug Armstrong has no other options but to do something. And this is the problem. We know he has to do something, and then watch what he does be something like the Kevin Hayes trade that he made last season. That was the most pathetic thing. Like, I'm not trying to be all negative here. I know it's the last pregame show, but really, like, that was the move that you made. It just seems to me a little, ridiculous with considering how awful the season was for him. I don't think he's a bad player. I just think that he is a little bit past his prime with how he played and not as good as he used to be. And you know what? I that sounds harsh, but it's the reality. And I feel for him because he gets a lot of, hate and fans have been tough on him and I understand why. But again, that's on Doug Armstrong, not Kevin Hayes. Simple as that. So, if you have any feelings about what the Blues should do this offseason, let me know in the comments. But tonight, enjoy this game, soak it all in. I am so proud of this team because they played 80 games of being in playoff contention. So, that's an accomplishment. Obviously, our goal was to get back to the playoffs. 2 consecutive seasons. Yeah, it sucks, but that's what they did. If they just won a couple of those games against the San Jose Sharks, maybe things would be a little bit different, but unfortunately, that's just how it goes in the game of hockey. So, enjoy it, soak it all in, and we'll talk tomorrow about the game and we'll go full off-season mode, but I'm going to watch some Blues hockey right now, and that's the last time I'm going to be able to say that until preseason. So, oh man, I'm a little upset. So, yeah, I'm going to go watch my Blues. And like always, let's go Blues.